Namaskaram, or hello. My name is Vanessa Maria, and I identify myself as a young Anglo-Indian woman from South India. I am a Roman Catholic, an artist, a daughter, a sister, and a friend. Now, being an Anglo-Indian is something I'm really proud of. Being an Anglo-Indian from South India, I find South Indian culture rich and beautiful. It's home to the largest biodiversity in India, with 450 bird species, about 400 mammalian and reptile species, in addition to over 6,000 plant species. So if you're someone that has an utter interest in zoology, botany, and even just food, because commonly used spices like cardamom and black pepper originate from South India, then this should really interest you as much as it interests me. What I love most about South India is how diverse it is. Unlike many North Indian states, which usually see a concentration of one religion or the other, the religious demographics of South India are more balanced, with Hindus, Buddhists, Muslims, and all forms of Christianity living side by side in unison. South India also holds the largest literacy rate in India at 80%. And don't get me started on the food. South India is home to India's most popular breakfast foods, like dosa, vada, idli, puttu, and appam. And if you don't like eating a crispy ghee roast dosa, something's off about you. And if you have not tried it, add it to your bucket list, because you really have not lived till you've eaten the ethnic food of South India. Despite all these wonders and more, South Indians are commonly discriminated against, presented by ethnocentrism from North Indians, which is really sad because the beauty lies in how diverse this country is. Alas, South Indians everywhere, inside and outside India, are typically made fun of due to stereotypes formulated over the years. All from pronunciation of our words to our use of coconut. In our food, skincare, oil, and everything really. I'm not gonna lie, coconut's used a lot. Okay, yes, 75% of India's total coconut produce comes from South India.
But, come on, coconuts are great for you.
Now, I also identify as Anglo-Indian. This means that my ancestry goes back to European descent. It's pretty evident in my name. Vanessa Maria Rosario doesn't really identify as an Indian name, does it? It doesn't, because it isn't Indian. It holds Portuguese origins, which is where my family's ancestry dates back to. Being Anglo-Indian meant that I was raised with vastly different cultural values than that of an Indian. These differences include certain traditional food, language, religion, and more. Time and globalization have made the term Anglo-Indian somewhat obsolete, as people are increasingly defined by a combination of where they were born or the citizenships they hold, regardless of bloodline. Today, we still exist as a small distinctive community, mostly Christian, holding our own traditional foods and customs that are different to the typical cultural norms of an Indian. We are proud of our ethnic makeup, and it sometimes seems as though we are somewhat of a melting pot of both Indian and European culture. But this outlook on our culture is not shared by everyone. Many people, predominantly Indians, believe that we are not pure-blooded like they are. They labeled us as dishonorable and felt as though our ancestors valued the Europeans colonizing India over Indian people. They felt as though we romanticized their invasion and occupation. I don't see it this way at all. How can Anglo-Indians blame anyone for their origins? I think it's beautiful that we get to experience cultural values from both ethnicities. I also identify myself as a woman. And as everyone should know by now, being a woman is great. I mean, yes, of course, there are the universally known obstructions and conflicts we face. But I am so proud to be a woman. For years, feminists have fought for the social, economic, and political equality of the sexes. And change is happening, slowly but surely, as we have learned to fight the patriarchy and not one another. However, in my opinion, identifying myself as a woman from India has challenges of its own. It's not unheard that India, with its vast, rich beauty and culture, does have major drawbacks in terms of the frame of embedded misogyny in ways of thinking in the majority of our older generation. Even an article in The Hindu, India's top newspaper, stated that misogyny is the oldest Indian tradition. Women in India, where patriarchy is deep-rooted into their culture, find themselves in the dilemma of having to decide to rebel or reconcile, facing an existential threat where freedom could mean loss of security. Indian girls, including myself, are taught that if any harm was done to us, physical or psychological, it was somehow our fault. The way she dressed was probably why she was raped. A girl that speaks to boys openly is shameless. If women were more composed, quiet, serving, angelic, dressed more modest, then the crimes against us would stop. We are taught to be caretakers of our men and take the hit because that's all we are. These are things I was taught by women themselves. The only way forward is for the new generation to continue to educate young girls of the rights they were not given. That a girl, regardless of her race, should be assertive, to be able to make her own decisions, dress how she likes, and that she most certainly is equal to the boys in her class. To teach them that freedom is to choose to work, to dress, to speak out, to run, to fight, and to rebel is not something they should be conditioned into being afraid of, but it is the only way to live. These are things I learned myself, because I was fortunate enough to have a strong, independent female role model in my childhood. My mother. She was a divorced woman living outside of her community in the misty mountains of Kodaikanal in South India. And watching her, I was inspired to not let the social and cultural taboos of India stand in the way of who I am and what I believe in. Throughout my life, all the cultural influences that either I was taught or introduced to have shaped me into who I am today. Whether it was material culture, non-material culture, ways of thinking, and age-old traditions that I either agreed to or disagreed to and rebelled against, I am grateful to it all.